He bumped him, and that might be a suspension. And he just throws the ball up into the bleachers.
So I'm looking at my list right now of all of my most hated players growing up, and oh man, it's giving me PTSD because some of these dudes were so good against the Indians that it shattered my dreams of ever going to the World Series. Eventually we did in '97. And then Edgar Renteria happened. He's going to be on today's list. Then 2016 happened where we choked in the World Series. So I'm not going to have any Cubs players. These are going to be players from back in the day. So we're going to take a trip down memory lane, and I want you guys to participate in the comment section down below. Give me 3 to 5 guys that you hated when you were growing up. It doesn't even really have to be a good reason, because some of the players on today's list, like Jonathan Papelbon, I just hated his face. So we're going to talk about him in just a second, but please let me know who are the few guys that you grew up watching and you just could not stand. Make sure you guys leave a like if you want to see more videos like this where we just have more fun and talk about random stuff. Subscribe because we're on the road to 200,000 subs before opening day, whenever that happens. I mean, we're really reaching for content right now. But again, I've already hinted at him. Jonathan Papelbon, it's very simple. It's very petty. When I was growing up, every time that I saw his stupid, I don't even know what this face was. Is it a fish face? I mean, what is he doing? He was so dialed in that he literally lost control of his facial emotions. I mean, I used to mimic him in the backyard with my brothers. Now, you guys know my younger brother is pretty good at hitting, so I had to really just channel my inner Jonathan Papelbon. I said, that's literally what he looked like. That was the only reason why. Also, he got in a fight with Bryce Harper. You guys know I'm a pretty big fan of him, so I didn't like him growing up. I didn't like him as I was maturing and starting to understand that maybe I really don't hate these players. I was just young. I was immature, but Papelbon is going to be the first player on today's video. Let me know what you guys think about that, because I feel like Papelbon, he rubbed a lot of people wrong, including the fans of Philadelphia. I think he grabbed his you-know-what. I'll go ahead and roll that right now, but a lot of people are not on the they're not on the side of Papelbon, if you know what I mean. Next up, a player that I have not thought about in quite some time until I was doing my research for today's video, Milton Bradley. He was actually not too bad as a hitter, but I would have to say that his horrible attitude, his horrible anger management skills caused him to never reach his fullest potential. Honestly, Milton Bradley, he had these skills to be a perennial all-star. There was a couple seasons where he had an 850 OPS and 900 plus OPS. He was not the worst player in the world, but his ejections, his terrible attitude with teammates, he was just one of those guys that you kind of respected his game, but considering the way that he approached playing the game, you just couldn't like him. So I think Jonathan Papelbon and Milton Bradley, those are two guys that are on everyone's list, at least in my opinion, or at least that are high up there of people that, I mean, they annoyed you. And that's it. That's really the only reason why. I mean, Papelbon, it was a little bit more petty because I just hated his face and the way that he always set up when he was about to pitch. Now this next player, Miguel Cabrera, I'm going to call him Miggy because that's the name that I hated growing up. Every time that I heard the word Miggy, I almost cringed inside, because if we take a look at his lifetime stats against the Indians, I mean, I don't know why he doesn't play for the Indians with how good he's been against us. He has a lifetime 325 batting average with 46 home runs, a 955 OPS against the Indians in my lifetime. So that's some pretty big boy numbers. So it's not like Papelbon where his face annoyed me, or Milton Bradley, just his attitude was so grotesque where I just said, I don't even want to watch him. Like, it might be entertaining, but it's just not a good look for the game of baseball. Miguel Cabrera, Miggy was so good at hitting baseballs thrown by Indians pitchers that I just could not stand him. Now, as I grew up, as I matured, he actually became one of my favorite players in the league. He has so much fun playing baseball. He's always interacting with fans. I hope that Miggy comes back strong in 2020 because he was breaking out in spring training. And then, of course, the Corona thing happened, so he had to sit it out. I'm hoping that the rust does not get to him. I want him to rake this year. Even as an Indians fan, I want him to rake. Now, moving on to the next player. Again, this was very petty. Looking back, I have no idea why I hated him so much, but we're going to pause real quick because what I'm about to say makes no sense. I did not like Juan Uribe because his body wasn't proportional. Why is his butt out so far? Like, every time I played MLB 2K with my brother, we're like, did you edit his stance or something? Did you edit his character? Why is that happening? And that's the reason. That was it. Juan Uribe, he played really well. He wasn't the best player in the world, but he kind of reminded me of Jose Ramirez, just kind of a pest. He did a lot of things pretty good. And again, just the way his body was shaped, I mean, I can't really say anything because Thick Boy Fuzzy is in session. I need to lose some weight, but yeah, Juan Uribe, I never really liked him growing up. It was just his stance. It was the way that he swung and the way that when he hit home runs, he would swing and kind of like throw his bat this way. And then again, his stance and his his aesthetic. That's as petty as you're ever going to get. So I was a young fan. Looking back, I have no idea why I had that mentality. But so far, Jonathan Papelbon, Milton Bradley, Miguel Cabrera, Juan Uribe. Who is the top 5 for you growing up? Because AJ Pierzynski, I don't really know a lot of good things about him. Now, some people say that AJ Pierzynski was a leader of men, whereas other people say that no one liked him. I think there was actually a quote that, I mean, he was ejected one time because he asked the umpire for a new ball, and then the umpire goes, "Why?" And then he says, "I need one that you can see." So that was a burn on the umpire. Looking back, that's actually kind of funny. But he got in a ton of fights, as you guys can see on the screen. And he is ranked always, if you just type in on Google, most hated baseball players, it's always AJ Pierzynski. It's always Ozzie Guillen, even though he's not a player. A-Rod, Ryan Braun. Pierzynski is always going to be a top 10 player in the most hated rankings videos. So he was on the list just because he was part of the White Sox. He was always getting in fights. He really annoyed me just the way that he played. I just did not like him. Next up, all I have to say is Edgar Renteria, and then show this clip. I'm a diehard Indians fan. I was 1 year old, so I knew my life going forward would never be the same as an Indians fan. I was destined to be a loser and someone that chokes leads at all times, even though we have better squads. 1997, I'm pretty sure there's another one in there. I think 2007 against the Red Sox, we were up 3-1. And then we choked that lead, and then, the 2016 Cubs. But yeah, Edgar Renteria, he did this. He started off my life with a bang.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
Speaking of that 2007 Red Sox club, so we already talked about Jonathan Papelbon, and I can remember this just like it happened yesterday, and it's actually kind of a crazy coincidence because Dustin Pedroia, I didn't like him for the same reason I didn't like Jonathan Papelbon. Now, Papelbon, his face was his face. It was contorted every time that he was about to throw a pitch. But there was something about Dustin Pedroia. I don't know if you guys remember, but he was always doing like that. He was always doing that with his face. And actually, now that I'm older and I'm getting dry eyes and I just have weird things going on, I mean, I have the same things. I have to kind of adjust my face and itch things, and my eyes get really dry. So again, it was very petty. And my grandpa, again, I remember it just like it happened yesterday when my grandpa goes, "He looks like a bulldog. I don't like him. I don't like him at all. I don't like his face." I'm like, "Yeah, Grandpa, I don't like him either." First of all, the dude was special. I hope that he makes it to the Hall of Fame. I hope that he comes back just like Miggy, healthy. He can actually play in 2020. I don't think it's going to happen, but I have to pray to the baseball gods. And I say that because as I got older, Dustin Pedroia became one of my favorite players in the league as well. His passion is almost unmatched. Him, Chase Utley, Grady Sizemore, Pete Rose, they all played, 10 out of 10, full gear, every single time they stepped on the field, and I can really appreciate that. And I'm so sad that Manny Machado had to slide into his leg and pretty much end his career. So Pedroia, he was probably the #1 player I hated growing up, but now that I'm older, I'm almost 24 years old. It's gonna be my Kobe year. Rest in peace, Kobe. I like Dustin Pedroia almost as much as I like Francisco Lindor. So again, guys, I don't hate any of the players on today's list. We're just telling a story and filling you guys in as to how fuzzy became fuzzy. Nigel Morgan. When's the last time that you heard that? I don't even really think I have to explain myself. Nigel Morgan, he had a very low ceiling as a player in general. His talent was pretty much bottom of the barrel. But the thing that separated Nigel Morgan from any other player that wasn't very good is the fact that his attitude was so fiery and so hot. Like, he did play with a lot of passion as well, that you kind of wanted to watch him fail and have all of his antics go down. But again, I just didn't like him. He rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm going to show a few clips as to why I think that is. So, yeah, Nigel Morgan, he makes today's list. Alex Rodriguez. What more do I have to say? Now, I'm going to give Alex Rodriguez some credit. Post-baseball, I think that he is having a great career. He's on Shark Tank, one of my favorite shows on TV. He's an analyst for ESPN. I think that he has a lot of input on the game and a lot of good input. I think he is progressing the game even further. He's got a YouTube channel. He's always on podcasts with Barstool Sports. I think that he is great for the game now, but if you go back 10 to 15 years, steroids, lying, dating all the hot women, like you wanted to hate on A-Rod, but he was so good at baseball. He was so good at winning at life. Even though he did cheat, I would say that he was pretty good at life. I mean, he had to do a lot of shady things to do it. I mean, the dude's worth like $500 million just from playing baseball, so you almost have to tip your cap. Although there's the other side where it's like, do I have to because he disrespected the game time in and time out? So that really fueled my disdain for him, his arrogance, the fact that he thought he was the best when realistically, yeah, he was very talented, all-time talented, but he was using performance-enhancing drugs to make himself even better. So good for A-Rod to kind of flipping the script. I think it's more 70% of people like A-Rod now as opposed to 10%, maybe only Yankees fans liked him back in the day. And then last but not least, Carlos Zambrano. Because I grew up in Las Vegas, the only baseball channel that we had was, I think it was called WGN Chicago, and it was on channel 16, and the only teams that we got were the Cubs and the White Sox. So I was a big fan of Jermaine Dye growing up. I don't know why, I just really liked Jermaine Dye and Paul Konerko. But Carlos Zambrano, I never got on that train. And actually, now that I look at his stats, he wasn't too bad. For a solid 7 years, he was really good. Never had an ERA in the 4s. He was always sub 4, maybe 3.5, low 3s. He was really good, and I never knew that. But he was just one of those guys that I did not like. His attitude, the way that he treated his teammates, his coaches, the umpires, it just rubbed me the wrong way because I was always told, make sure you're a great team player, make sure you don't argue with the umpire. So he went against everything that I was told to stand for. But looking back, super entertaining. I wish that we had another Carlos Zambrano modern day. I can't really even think of anyone. But pretty much, guys, that's my list in one single video. The 10 players that I did not like growing up. I don't know if I necessarily hated them. I think hate only really applied to Dustin Pedroia and Juan Uribe. I just could not stand them. But now that I'm older, I can look back with kind of rose-colored glasses and think, I was wrong. You know, these guys, for the most part, they were all pretty good at what they did. They had pretty solid careers, and I got to tip my cap to them. They played the way that they played. They made a name for themselves. A lot of people like them. A lot of people don't. Just unfortunately, I was immature, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You grow up. I mean, some of you guys might not like Erin Judge right now because he has a gap in his tooth. That could be your reasoning in 10 years, and then you're going to look back and think, oh yeah, Erin Judge was pretty special. Or maybe Francisco Lindor, you don't like the fact that his hair looks like ramen noodle. That could be your reasoning. But 15 years from now, 2 decades from now, you're going to look back and think, wow, I was really young and stupid. So that's my story. Let me know what you guys thought of this video in the comment section down below. If you want to see more just story time videos from Fuzzy, slap a like on this one, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.